Hey everyone, welcome back to another video with Ricky the RBT. In today's video, I want to talk about 5 questions that you can ask during your RBT interview. So the reason why I want to make this video is I was receiving comments and messages about how to avoid burnout, how to overcome burnout, how to identify burnout, what are some things to look for in a quality company, so on. And so I want to make this video to kind of kick off a series of videos where I want to talk about 5 questions to ask during your interview when you do start searching for your first job or you're searching for your next job as an RBT. So when I was an RBT, I did have to deal with burnout. I experienced burnout, I would say like the last year before I became a BCBA. When I was going to school, I was working as an RBT, I was studying, so on. And so I was burnt out, right? I was lethargic when I showed up to work. I was very tired. I was unmotivated to do my job, right? It was very hard for me to come in and be interactive and be animated because I was so burnt out at that point in my career, in my job as an RBT. So those are just 2 signs of burnout, right? So I was lethargic. I was unmotivated to do my job. The job being very demanding. I complained a lot about being an RBT and my daily responsibilities. Again, it's a very demanding job. It's rewarding, but it's a very demanding job. And so I complained a lot about what I was doing. I may not have expressed it verbally, but internally, I was, it was a lot of thoughts going through my head where I would question whether or not this was a job that I wanted to continue to do. Another sign was my lack of enthusiasm to do my job, right? And so as an RBT, you spend a lot of time playing while also working on the necessary skills that you need to work on for that particular client. But you spend a good amount of time playing with your client, pairing with them, building rapport with them. And I had to kind of really dig deep to be enthusiastic about what I was doing. And that was very hard, when I was burnt out doing my job. And the last sign that I was burnt out was I was heavily criticizing the different policies and procedures that my company was implementing. And that's not to say that the policies and procedures were wrong, but I was just very frustrated with how things were going at that point in my life, being burnt out, not being motivated to do my job. And when things would change and I knew it would directly affect me, I would be upset about it. And so those things that I just listed out, being unmotivated, being lethargic, complaining about our responsibilities, not being enthusiastic, criticizing company policy and procedures, those are all signs of burnout. So with talking about those different signs of burnout, it was rough. It was rough being burnt out. It was rough showing up every day, pretty much having to put a smile on my face and, really, like I said, dig deep to do my job, to provide those quality services to my clients. It was rough, right? And so in my next video, I want to talk about how I actively overcame burnout on a daily basis. Emphasis on actively, because it wasn't me doing something 1 or 2 times and me just kind of just overcoming burnout. These are things that I had to do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to make sure that I was actively overcoming burnout so I can provide quality services to my clients. But today, I want to talk about 5 questions that you can ask during your interview and some red flags to look out for during our interview as well. All right, so let's jump into it. First thing is asking about some of the company's values, their mission statement, their company vision, so on. Every company should have something that talks about their company's purpose and the reasons why they created the company. If they are not able to provide you with a clear, understandable, and most importantly, an agreeable response to that question, then that is something to take into consideration. That is a red flag. I mean, you think about it, you can ask yourself what your vision is, what some of your goals are, what your mission is, what your purpose for being or becoming an RBT is, and answering those questions, those are like your reminders to yourself of what you want for your future. Your future company should have something similar that defines their mission, their vision, their goals for the company. And so when you ask that question and they're not able to provide you with a clear, understandable response, then you definitely should look at that as a red flag. So the second question should focus more around the number of clients they've transitioned to new settings, or a plan specifying how they plan on fading services if they need to, and what would determine implementing that fading plan. If they do not have a plan in place that they can break down and explain to you, then I would consider that a red flag. The reason why is because the ultimate goal for any practitioner working in this field is we should be looking to work ourselves out of a job. Now, let's not get that confused with just providing any kind of services, then expecting your client to acquire those skills that they're lacking and then sending them off to the next setting, whatever that setting may be. You deliver quality services so you can confidently say, like, this client is ready to move to the next environment. They've acquired all the skills, they've met all their goals. The maladaptives have decreased to almost not non-existent, according to the data that you're collecting. And so you're confident that this client is prepared to go to whatever the next setting is, whether it's a home setting, school setting, so on and so forth. You're confident that they're ready to transition. And so with them meeting whatever that criteria is, there should be a plan in place for the BCBA or the company to implement for that particular client in preparation for them to transition to the next setting. If they haven't transitioned any clients, that's totally okay. A lot of different ABA companies are just startups, and so these may be their first batch of clients or so on and so forth. So if they haven't transitioned any, then that's fine. But if they do not have a plan in place for fading services, then that is a red flag. The next thing is, during your interview, ask about how often you will be supervised. Will it be based on a percentage? Will it be based on a flat number of supervision hours per week? You're being supervised bi-weekly, monthly, what is it, right? If you're a new RBT with little to no experience, then you should definitely be asking about if there's an increased number of supervision for you based on your experience, right? Is there an increased number of supervision hours based on your experience? Now, according to the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, the minimum required percentage of hours you should be supervised as an RBT is 5% of the hours that you deliver ABA services for the month. Now, in my opinion, your company should be supervising RBTs way more than 5%. And so a good percentage, in my opinion, is between about 15 to 25% of the hours that you're delivering ABA services. So not necessarily on a monthly basis, but on a weekly basis, the amount of hours that you are delivering ABA services to a client, they should be taking 15 to 25% of those hours and utilizing it for supervision. So it's a huge red flag if you're being told your supervision hours are based on your BCBA and how often they decide to supervise you. There should be a set number of hours or a set percentage of hours that they supervise you. You want to take note of whatever that percentage of whatever that number is. Whatever they say during your interview, like you're being supervised, you should be being supervised 15% of the hours that you see the client, or 5 hours a week. Definitely take note, mental note or physical note of what that number is, so you know what the expectations are when you start seeing your client of how many hours you should be supervised by your BCBA. The reason why this is so important is because supervision is a critical piece of behavior service delivery. If you're not being supervised at a consistent rate, then you run the risk of implementing the treatment plan wrong, one, but also feeling just unsupported, right? And that kind of leads into burnout. And the last thing is you're kind of like putting a cap on your success within the field, right? You're not being able to showcase the skills that you do have. And without you being able to showcase those skills, you're not able to move up to a higher position, as lead RBT or something like that, or move to another position within the company where, your skill set can be best utilized at. Next thing, which is something I mentioned in my things to consider before becoming an RBT video, is during your interview, ask about training. Will there be new hire orientations? Will there be new hire training sessions? How long will you be training before you meet your client? Is there certain requirements you have to meet before you start working with your first client? Is there ongoing training after the onboarding training, the new hire training? If so, how often are we doing these ongoing trainings, right? If not, if there's no training at all, there's no ongoing training, there's no new hire training, that is a huge, huge red flag. The reason why is because to me it says that the company does not prioritize hiring quality RBTs. A company should want quality trained RBTs working with their clients to ensure that they're providing and delivering quality services. So outside of that, if there's no training or orientation, how will you know what is expected of you as an RBT or the specifics of how to do your job? This is necessary information for any RBT, right? If there's no ongoing training, then you're not given an opportunity to continue to enhance your knowledge on one, ABA, but two, the company's expectations. So look for a company to provide onboarding training, but also continue training as you continue to work for this particular company. The last thing is before or after your interview, check out reviews on the company through Google so you can see what the parents think, and you may also be able to see what past employees think. If you want more employee-based reviews, you can check out sites like Indeed or Glassdoor. If you don't see any reviews, I wouldn't look at that as a red flag because a lot of ABA companies are startups. If you see a lot of negative reviews, definitely I would take that into consideration and kind of look at it as a red flag. If you go on Indeed or Glassdoor and there aren't any employee reviews or there aren't a lot, definitely check out LinkedIn so you can find people who currently work for that company, and you can ask them more direct questions. You can ask them about the interviewing process. You can ask them about training, the workplace environment. If you're going to be traveling, you can ask them about travel details, reimbursement rates, pay. If you guys are okay with talking about those different things, you could talk about pay. And ultimately just asking about their experience working for that company. Right? So these are all questions that you can ask during your interview. And like I said, definitely look out for those red flags and take those things into consideration. If you guys took any notes during this video, definitely leave me a thumbs up. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you're notified every time that I upload a new video. Definitely leave me some comments down below. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.